Marcel, and welcome to the second installment of the Sleep to Perform series, sponsored by Technogel. So in this second part of the Sleep to Perform series, we're going to look at your stages of sleep. So last time, kind of gave you the overview about sleep and everything that we're going to cover in this video. We also talked about the sleepiness test that I encourage you to take. And so you can go back to microcell.com and take that test as well. That's important and a good place to get you started. So before we get into the subsequent parts of the Sleep to Perform series, I really wanted to outline the different stages of sleep for you, because sleep is really fascinating. As you know, if you watched the first video, I'm fascinated by sleep. But with the stages of sleep, I think it's really interesting because a lot of times maybe you just think that you go to bed and then you wake up. But while you're asleep, I mean, it's like a physiological symphony, all the different things that are going on. And there are multiple different stages of sleep. And with each of those stages, different things happen. And each of those stages have different benefits to your body. So we're going to talk about each of those stages. Basically, it's stages 1 through 4, and then also REM sleep, a rapid eye movement sleep. And all those together create a sleep cycle. And then a sleep cycle lasts about 90 minutes. And so depending on how long you sleep would determine how many sleep cycles you'll get through. And when we talk about some of the research regarding the benefits of sleep, one of the studies we'll talk about was they looked at just adding one more sleep cycle to some athletes' sleep habits. So basically adding 90 minutes, having them sleep an extra 90 minutes, and really saw some pretty unbelievable changes in performance just by doing that, which, you know, most times most athletes, you know, I can tell myself having an athletic background, like always want to do more, work harder, what else can we do in the gym, you know, how can we improve our diets? And the idea of sleeping an extra hour and a half usually doesn't come into anybody's mind. But it is that powerful. So we're going to go through each of the stages of sleep by one, and I'll talk about what happens during that stage. All right? So let's start out with stage 1. So stage 1 is almost not really sleep. With stage 1 sleep, it usually lasts about 5 minutes. And it's the transition into sleep and into falling asleep. And during this time, you know, your muscles start to relax, you start to lose awareness of your surroundings, and you kind of doze off to sleep. And now stage 1 is interesting because it only happens, you know, it's important because it is transitioning your body into the sleep state, but it only happens at the very beginning. You know, if once you repeat your sleep cycle the second time around, you're not going to go into stage 1 sleep. You basically go from REM, which is the last, which we'll talk about, which is the last part of a sleep cycle. You basically go from REM right into stage 2 sleep the second time. So stage 1 sleep is really just the prep phase for sleep and lasts about 5 minutes. Okay, so pretty simple. But next now, where it gets starting to get really interesting is with stage 2 sleep. So stage 2 sleep is actually sleep. You know, stage 1, we're getting into sleep, and stage 2 sleep is your real first part of sleep. And during this, you're going to get a decrease. Stage 2 sleep is characterized by a decrease in breathing and also a decrease in your heart rate. And stage 2 sleep is really the part of the sleep cycle that scientists attribute towards increasing your alertness. You know, oftentimes we characterize sleeping as increasing alertness, and that's really due to a lot of things that happen in stage 2 sleep. And now we're going to talk about napping in a subsequent series, or a subsequent part of the series, but if you've ever taken a quote-unquote power nap, right, you wake up and you feel a lot more alert because you're getting a big chunk of that stage 2 sleep. You know, if you're only going to sleep 25 minutes, right, you get a little stage 1, and then you move in and you get a lot of stage 2, and so that's going to increase your alertness. Now also during, in addition to alertness, you're also going to get improvements in concentration, are also things that happen as a benefit and as a result of stage 2. Again, that makes sense if you think of napping. Take a short nap, increase concentration afterwards, increased awareness. One of the reasons, and we'll get into this more, why napping is so awesome. What's really unique about stage 2, one characteristic that's really unique about stage 2 sleep is the occurrence and the appearance of what scientists call sleep spindles. And they monitor this. They kind of got the name based on the monitoring of it from a neurological level in your brain. And what sleep spindles are they're a consolidation of your motor memory. So if you've ever had something, people say like riding a bike, right? Initially, riding a bike is very difficult, but then all of a sudden it becomes second nature. Or maybe navigating yourself around a neighborhood, right? Initially, it's a little bit difficult, and then all of a sudden it's no problem. And so this consolidation of motor memory going from kind of conscious to subconscious happens with these, the sleep spindles are actually that happening, and the increasing of these and formation of these sleep spindles is a marker that scientists use to actually show that happening in your brain. And so this is very unique to sleep, to stage 2 sleep. They occur, I think, to a lesser extent. I believe I saw some data showing that they occur to a lesser extent in some of the other phases, but stage 2 is really where it happens. So you get this consolidation of your motor learning and motor memory during stage 2, which is, again, important if we talk about athletes. That's also important for athletes, but it's important for us non-athletes as well. And then, just kind of wrapping up about stage 2, what you really get here is a resting of your brain. In the later stages, specifically to in REM sleep, we'll talk about that, your brain is very active. But stage 2 is really resting your brain and is characterized by these sleep spindles, which consolidate your motor memory. So we're getting increased awareness, increased concentration, and also consolidation of motor memory. Those are really the key characteristics of stage 2. So now let's move into stage 3. And we're going to talk about stage 3 and stage 4 sort of together because they have very similar characteristics. But just know that while they are similar, they're not exactly the same. So stage 3 and stage 4 are what's known as deep sleep, and stage 4 is even deeper sleep. So let's get into stages 3 and stage 4. So stages 3 and stage 4, characterized as deep sleep, is what you'd expect. Your body is in a very deep sleep. And now from a hormonal level, because there's a lot of things that happen hormonally, which we'll get a little bit more specifics into in another part of the series when we talk about weight loss and kind of hormonal changes that occur due to hormones that impact weight loss and changes in them that occur due to sleep or lack of sleep. But specifically during deep sleep, you get a decrease, almost actually a turning off, a decrease in production and secretion of the stress hormone cortisol. So cortisol, stress hormone, sort of fight or flight, right? It gets, a really bad name in the media for being the belly fat hormone, which is a very simplistic view of cortisol because you need it. But cortisol production gets cut off during deep sleep, and what you do is you get a great increase in growth hormone. Growth hormone is responsible for fat burning. It's also important for physical restoration. And some people think it's the key to agelessness and living forever. But during deep sleep, that's when you get a massive production and release of growth hormone. And deep sleep is your physically restorative sleep. So if you've been training really hard or you've been run down physically, deep sleep, stages 3 and 4, are really when you're going to get that muscle recovery and that physical restoration. And so that's why it's really, really important, especially if you're looking to, the series is called Sleep to Perform. If you're looking to increase performance, you need to recover, and deep sleep is the key to recovering. And now also, kind of in stage 2, we talked about there was a consolidation of your motor memory and moving things from kind of your conscious to your subconscious, so you can do them without thinking. In stages 3 and 4, you also get a consolidation of your memory. And so this is really important. If you think about, if you ever wake up after a good night's sleep and you feel like your mind is clear, right? You just clears your head. That's deep sleep and work. Deep sleep basically helps prune away things that your body deems that you don't need to remember, and it packs together and keeps the things that it deems important. So in addition to being physically restorative and helping repair your muscles from a physical perspective, it also kind of repairs your brain and your memory, because it's pruning and getting rid of kind of ancillary memories and things that it has stored in there over the short term, which it doesn't need, and really consolidates things for more for the long term. And so deep sleep also is responsible for helping clear your head. So 2 things: deep sleep is the bomb. You get increase in physical restoration, and you also get a clearing of the mind, which I know we all could use. I know I could use it as well. But one of the things that's frustrating about deep sleep, as great as it is that as you get older, you get less deep sleep. It's kind of a mean trick associated with aging, especially if you think about, we talked about growth hormone being released during deep sleep, right? And growth hormone, let's say, even if it is an anti-aging hormone at some level, right? We get less deep sleep as we get older, so we're going to get less growth hormone release and production as well, because we're going to have a smaller window. And going from like 20 to 60, you can actually get a 50% reduction in the percent of your sleep that's deep sleep. So that's no good for everybody, because we're all getting older. But that's another distinction with deep sleep, is that you actually get less of it over time. So the last phase that we're going to talk about is REM sleep. So REM stands for rapid eye movement sleep. And rapid eye movement sleep is really important, and there's a big dramatic shift in your sleep as you transition into REM. And so while you're in deep sleep, right, it's very relaxing, very restorative. In REM sleep, you actually get a massive increase in blood flow, up to 50% more blood flow to your brain than when you were up and about, right? So you get a massive increase in blood flow to your brain, your blood pressure increases, your blood vessels dilate, and your brain becomes very active. So basically from the neck down, not moving, right? The occasional twitch. But from the neck up on your brain is just on fire. And one of the things that hopefully you've noticed during stages 2 and then stage 3 and 4 with deep sleep, and it happens again in REM sleep, is that there's a lot of consolidation and movement of memory in the neurological processes, right? From stage 2 with motor, stage 3 and 4, this neurological pruning, and then in REM sleep, what you basically get is the transition of things from short-term to long-term memory. So if you've ever heard people talk about, this was when I was in college, people talked about this all the time. They study, right? And then they would go to bed right after they finished studying to try to remember and let that set in your brain. Well, scientifically, that actually makes sense, because if you look at it, right, when you're studying, you basically have these things in your short-term memory, and then you go to sleep right away. And if you sleep long enough and get enough sleep cycles, right, you're going to get a lot more REM. You're going to get a lot of REM sleep, and that's going to allow for the transition of things from your short-term to your long-term memory. So you get this, transition from short-term to long-term memory, and you also get increases in creativity, right? REM sleep is also associated with increases in creativity. Your brain is very, very active during REM sleep, and so it's another key component. And so once you get to REM sleep, then things start all over again. It's the completion of a sleep cycle, and then it takes about 90 minutes. It can be a little bit different, and then you move to the next one. So some things interesting about sleep cycles, and we'll talk about, in the last, about tips and tricks for your sleep. We'll talk about some different things, but our sponsors, Technogel, have actually data to show that sleeping on their beds, which are great. I have a Technogel bed, that sleeping on the beds actually increases REM sleep. REM sleep is definitely, I would say, all the stages of sleep are great, but deep and REM would be the two that if you could get more of, especially as you get older, it would be them. But that sleeping on these beds, you actually get an increase in your REM sleep, which is really interesting. And then if you're looking to kind of categorize and get a better grasp of how much of these different stages of sleep you're getting, there's a device called the Zeo Sleep Manager, and it's a band that you wear on your head, and it actually monitors, I believe it monitors the frequency and brain waves, and it translates to an app on your phone and can show you how much of the different stages of sleep that you're getting, and how much REM sleep you're getting, how much of deep sleep you're getting, and then it kind of packages that all together and gives you a sleep score. So it takes into account how much of each of the stages, then also how many sleep cycles, total duration of sleep, and gives you a sleep score. And this is really valuable. I have friends, I use a different sleep tracking device that isn't a headband, more just because I have a lot of little kids, and so we have 3 kids, and so I'll be up in the middle of the night, and I think if I woke up and went to my daughter's bed, she's 4, and I had this neurological headband device on my head, it might freak them out. So I don't use the Zeo, but I have a lot of friends that do, and it's amazing the data that you can get about yourself, and you can really start to see what are things that you're doing that are impacting your sleep, and specifically like even digging down to your sleep cycle. Like after a really hard training day, what kind of restorative sleep are you getting? Are you getting less deep sleep, or are you getting more deep sleep? Or if you're having trouble with your training, you can look, say, over the last 30 days, how much REM sleep have you gotten? How much deep sleep have you gotten? Is this different from before? And can really start using sleep to fine-tune as a recovery tool and another piece to your training toolbox. So you have training, you have nutrition, and then you also have sleep. I use a device personally called the Lark, which is a wristband that you use, and it doesn't give you the stages of sleep, but it does give you some other information. It gives you sleep efficiency, total time sleeping, restfulness, and it gives you also a sleep score that you can use. So I use that basically every day. It also has a silent alarm, so it vibrates. So I like to get up. I get up around 5:30 to train and head to the gym, and I'll train. So I'm getting to the gym around 6:15, and it's nice to be able to get up at 5:30. My wrist vibrates, doesn't wake up the whole family. So that's an added benefit for the Lark. But there are these devices that you can use, and the Zeo one gets specifically at your different sleep cycles. So if this is something that you find really interesting, even a fraction as interesting as I do, I think it's definitely worth looking into it and getting one of these devices. Another one I actually have on my wrist here, the Jawbone Up, also tracks sleep. It tracks movement and sleep. And then I've played around with a Fitbit as well, and that'll also do a similar thing to the Lark. So there are lots of ways now. I mean, when I was younger, there was no way you had any information or access to this kind of information. You just laid down, remembered the time you laid down, and then whatever time your alarm went off, you woke up, and that's what you used for sleep. But there's a lot of information and devices that can really let you get down into the quality of your sleep and even the different phases of your sleep. So that's going to wrap it up for the sleep phases video. And remember, we have stage 1, right, which is getting into sleep. Stage 2, right, which is your first sort of real sleep, and that's where you get increases in alertness and concentration, and also kind of a concrete and a solidifying of motor memory and a kind of a movement from conscious to subconscious with motor memory. Stages 3 and 4 are your deep sleep. This is your physically restorative sleep, where you get increases in growth hormone, decreases in cortisol, and you also get a pruning of your memory. So it's also good for clearing your mind, since you're getting this quote-unquote neurological pruning. And then slow wave sleep is characterized by its very active increase in blood flow to your brain, very active with your brain, and it will help you increase creativity, and then also get you transitioning of things that you've remembered from your short-term memory to your long-term memory. All told, this lasts about 90 minutes, but if you use something like a Zeo, you actually can see the actual length of your sleep cycle. And this repeats. The sleep cycle then repeats. You go after your first thing of REM, you actually go back into stage 2, and then you go from there. Okay? So that's going to wrap it up for this video on sleep. I hope you found this interesting and useful, and we're going to get back into, when we talk about napping, these different components of sleep and how you can tap into those based on the duration of your nap. Okay? So again, I'm Dr. Mike Roussel. That's going to wrap it up for the second installment of the Sleep to Perform series, sponsored by Technogel. Thanks for tuning in, and come back for part 3 coming at you real soon.